Golos, Tireless Pilgrim versus Shizuko, Caller of Autumn. Shizuko. Ishkanah, Grafwidow. And Braids, Conjurer, Adept. Yeah, some unique commanders here. Don't often see any of these. Completely forgot that Golos existed from M20 until I saw that Jolt put out a video of him. And yeah, that spurred me on to make a deck. Like I say, I completely forgot about this commander. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a land and put it into play tapped, and then for Wooburgen 2, exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn without paying their mana cost. A Magus of the Candelabra for the Shizuko opponent. Well, I was going to get down a tap land with the Verdant Catacombs, but now that we've got Brainstorm, I think we'll use Brainstorm at the end of Shizuko's turn, and then we can shuffle up the top of our library with the Farseek or the Verdant Catacombs. Shizuko, Caller of Autumn, is 3 mana for a 2/3 Snake Shaman. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player adds 3 green until the end of the turn. They don't lose mana as steps and phases end. And we are in 5 colours, and we're in a colour-intensive deck as well, so that might really help us. Ishkanah, Grafwidow, is 5 mana for a 3/5 spider. It has reach, and Delirium, when it enters the battlefield, if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, create 3 1/2 spiders with reach. For 7 mana, target opponent loses 1 life for each spider you control, so most likely spider tribal. And then Braids, Conjurer, Adept, 4 mana, mono blue for a 2/2 human wizard. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player may put an artifact, creature, or land from their hand onto the battlefield. Not much going on so far, just a vessel of nascency. Is that nascency? Nascency? Nascency. I don't think I've ever seen that word before. At the end of the turn, we'll go for the Brainstorm. Alright, Merciless Eviction and Grave Titan can get shuffled away. In fact, we're going to draw into Grave Titan, aren't we? Which I can't say I mind too much. I do very much like Grave Titan. Let's go for the Savannah into Farseek here. And we'll get a black and red source. The idea behind this deck is it's just good stuff, really. We want to ramp like crazy and then use mana doubling effects in order to abuse that ability that Golos has. And we also have means of stacking the top cards of our library so that we can put cards from our hand on top of our library with things like Scroll Rack, for instance, and Brainstorm. And then we somewhat know what we're getting into and we can plan our turns accordingly. Noteworthy that that ability is able to be activated at instant speed. The first spider coming down for Ishkanah. It can only block creatures with flying. It's a 3/3 reach for 3 mana. And down comes Shizuko, so we are going to get some additional mana this turn, which puts us in line for our commander, actually. Now then, we could go for Grave Titan, couldn't we? But does Braids have counter magic held up, is the question. I'm going to risk it. And it comes straight down, so it looks like Braids has no counter magic in hand. Yeah, we don't have any really broken land cards, really. I've been fighting the urge to make lots of Lands Matter decks out of M20. Omnath is really good in Lands Matter, so is Golos, and Yarok is as well. And I didn't just want to make a lot of Lands Matter decks because we already have Tatyova and Lord Winggrace, the Angry Omnath. I have a few Lands Matter decks already. Okay, Gilded Drake comes down and steals our Grave Titan, so it might be time for Toxic Deluge quite soon. Yeah, the only lands that we can go for that are of any particular interest, there's Strip Mine and the, is it Glacial Chasm that stops combat damage, and then we can get that back out of the graveyard with a Crucible of Worlds or a Raminat. But that's really just to buy us time. This isn't a utility-built Lands Matter deck. We're just trying to get up to Wooburg as quickly as we can and then start doubling up our mana. Brass Herald comes down, no doubt, naming spiders. And no spiders seen in the top 4 cards off of the Brass Herald. Now, at the beginning of each player's upkeep, because Braids is in play, that player can put an artifact, creature or land from hand to battlefield, so we're definitely going for Surak Dragonclaw. Immortal Sun has come down for Shizuko, so they will start drawing additional cards. We don't have many Planeswalkers in the deck, luckily. I think it's a Jace the Mind Sculptor is the only one we've got, so that we can stack the top cards of our library with the Brainstorm. A Mind Stone being played by Shizuko and then immediately getting sacked off for mana. Followed by an Elvish Mystic, so they're ramping up to something. Who knows what it is. Then using the Magus of the Candelabra to untap a load of lands. And getting down a Ripjaw Raptor. Whenever it's dealt damage, draw a card. That's a 5/6 currently. We get 3 mana from Shizuko. And no doubt the plan with Braids is to get us all to put our best stuff into play so that they can steal it with different effects in that deck. Let's just get down Surak. Oh, and a Maelstrom Wanderer as well. Yeah, I mean, if Maelstrom Wanderer gets stolen away from us, at least we can go for a Toxic Deluge. Yeah, let's go for Maelstrom Wanderer. Might ramp us out even more. Have to play our land first, apparently. Let's shock that in and try again. Cascading twice with Maelstrom Wanderer, hoping for more mana here. Well, Ramunap with a fetch in the graveyard might help. And a Lightning Greaves as well, so that will stop them from stealing stuff away from us. What do we want to keep them off, though? Everything's got haste. Let's go in pretty heavily at the Braids player. And if they want to block either of these creatures, they can, but they'll lose the Grave Titan. Alright, deciding to block Maelstrom Wanderer with the Grave Titan. I mean, we have a Lightning Greaves in play, so not too worried about that. We still have a Haste Enabler. And we at least keep our opponent from using Grave Titan to get an army of blockers into play. Oh, Jingataxius. Each opponent's maximum hand size is reduced by 7. We at least have Anguished Unmaking to deal with that. I'll certainly make my opponents discard their hands before we use that. Not that we can use it now, we don't have the mana. Walk of the Aeons has been cast. And that is target player takes an extra turn. They did not use the buyback cost on that. And Jingataxius, by the way, at the beginning of your end step, you draw 7 cards and each opponent's max hand size is reduced by 7. And Braids cheats out a Pathraiser Ulamog. Yeah, I think we're in board wipe territory at this point. Problem is, Braids is still going to have a whole heap of cards in hand, and that might even include counter magic. Another extra turn. Yep, this is this is fun. Braids now up to 12 cards in hand, and at the beginning of the turn they can cheat something into play thanks to Braids, discarding some lands and a Mind's Eye, and a Gauntlet of Power as well. Now getting down more Eldrazi. I do wish people wouldn't rely on Eldrazi so much. It does get quite boring seeing Eldrazi all the time. Show and Tell. Each player can put an artifact, creature, enchantment or land from hand to battlefield. We're not going to take advantage of that. Oh look, more Eldrazi from the Shizuko opponent, so there are 2 Kozileks in play now. And the problem is this Kozilek is going to be able to swing in once it comes around to their turn. And It That Betrays is in play as well, so yeah, this Braids player will gain control of the sacrificed permanents. I think it's permanents, isn't it? Not just creatures. Yeah, non-token permanents they gain control of. And a Scroll Rack. And then Pathraiser does not have Summoning Sickness. That's coming in straight at us. We will give them... I would like to go for Supreme Verdict on the upkeep. And we need our fetch for that. So we can't sacrifice Ramunap. Ugh, that's difficult. I mean, at least we can get rid of these zombies, but what other permanent do we give them? We're going to wipe the board anyway, and we can't block with Surak, so we'll just give Surak to them. And then we'll block 9 with the Gilded Drake. Oh no, we won't. It needs 3 or more creatures to block it. So we will not chump with the Gilded Drake. Just have to take 9. And then an Oblivion Stone. For 5 tap and sack, they can destroy each non-land permanent without a fate counter on it. Our plan is to wipe the board anyway. Hopefully this Kozilek goes in at the Braids player. It's exactly where it should go. Let's see if Ishkanah has anything to get down. They just cheat down a Hatchery Spider. When you cast this spell, reveal the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. You can put a green permanent with CMC X or less from among them onto the battlefield. The rest go on the bottom. I don't think it counts as casting, does it, with Braids? No, you just put it into play, so they don't get the cast trigger there. Here's a Shapeshifter, which just so happens to look like a spider in the artwork. When it enters the battlefield, if there are 3 or more creatures in your graveyard, you gain 5 life. They don't have anything in the graveyard currently. Now, they might be overextending here because if we wipe the board, they've only got 1 card in hand, but there are spiders, such as this one, that care about the number of creatures in graveyards. So they might be playing into that on purpose. Oh, Ulamog comes down. You're going to exile some Eldrazi, surely. Now, the only problem here is that the Supreme Verdict I was going to tutor for will not get rid of an indestructible creature, so if they're getting rid of a couple of permanents, yep, Jingataxius and It That Betrays are going down. Problem is, there's still a lot of power on the board if we need to rely on Toxic Deluge. Yep, going in heavy at the Braids player, which is absolutely the right call. Annihilator 4 will trigger. Turn 6, by the way. Sacrificing their Myriad Landscape, or the Spider player's Myriad Landscape, our Surak Dragonclaw, their Scroll Rack, and their Oblivion Stone as well. And then just chump in with the Kozilek. They go down to 20. Now, I don't think I want to Mystical Tutor, so let's just... Oh, we get into another fetch anyway. That's actually pretty good. Let's keep it in hand and go for a... Do we want white or blue? We need more white and blue, so let's go for the blue. Now, we've got time with the green mana, because it doesn't empty as steps and phases end, so we might as well get 3 points of damage into the Braids player before we wipe the board. And now we can go for the Toxic Deluge for 13. Knocks us all the way down to 14, but that does get through straight away, so I don't know how much counter magic this Braids player is actually playing. Let's get down our commander here. We get Search for a land. Like I say, there's nothing too fancy with regards to lands in this deck. Field of the Dead might be good, actually, to grab. We have 6 lands. Yeah, let's get a Field of the Dead. That gets us a zombie into play, untapped. And we'll give Golos Shroud and Haste. Yeah, Field of the Dead is a new one from M20. When it or another land enters under your control, if you control 7 or more lands with different names, you get a black zombie token. Really good with fetches. Unfortunately, Braids still has a full grip of cards thanks to that Jingataxius, so I won't be surprised to see a load of obnoxious stuff all over again. There's Tezzeret the Seeker, and they do like to steal cards in this deck, I think, so one thing I'm always worried about with Tezzeret is the Vidalcan Shackles. But there's nothing for them to steal currently, at least. The Vessel of Nascency. Reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put an artifact, creature, enchantment, land or planeswalker from among them into your hand. The rest go in the bin. Be a good way to turn on Delirium. They chose to put the Nyx Weaver into hand with that effect, and have now played it. So they'll get some nice self-mill going from there, but they are in top deck mode. Like we said before, they were overextending. And then tapping down Aurum Reef the Vastwood to put a plus counter on it. A Heartwood Storyteller. Whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, each of that player's opponents may draw a card. That's going to be difficult against us. We're going to feed our opponent a lot of card draw with the hand that we have currently. Right, let's see what we draw into, and then we can decide if we want to activate Golos or not. Well, there's a command tower. I think I'd rather get down the polluted delta. Alright, I'll get down the polluted delta because it's more landfall triggers, and therefore more zombies. Then we'll shift the boots over, and we'll go in at Braids' face, and then a couple in at Tezzeret. Did they even plus Tezzeret? I don't know if they even used Tezzeret. And luckily that gets through, that's quite surprising. And then I think we just go for an activation here, because I'm not really sure what else to do. Oh, well, there's something. Unfortunately, we've already played a land, so I can't play the Urborg. Yeah, that's something you need to watch out for in this deck. Let's go for Vorinclex. That will freeze our opponent's lands, and it will also double up our mana. And let's go for Beast Within. On... when can we do it? Until the end of the turn? Yeah, just this turn, so we have to blow up. I would actually rather get rid of this than the Immortal Sun. So let's kill that, so that we're not feeding too much card draw to people. All of our opponents drew a card, thanks to the Heartwood Storyteller there. And I think we can just leave it there. We can play Anguished Unmaking. We can also go for Mystical Tutor, and I might Mystical Tutor for Worldly Tutor, so that we can put a creature card on top of our library and cheat it out with Golos. But I don't know yet. One Power Stone for Braids with the 3 green mana that they generate at the beginning of every turn. And then just holding up 8 mana and passing through the turn, that's quite scary. That might be a Cyclonic Rift. Nyx Weaver going to mill 2 at the beginning of the turn. Mosswort Bridge comes down for the Spider player. They need total power of 10 or greater on the board to cheat something out for green and a tap. And now begins the freezing of lands with Vorinclex. Obviously Braids didn't tap down any of their blue mana, so won't affect them. Silklash Spider, don't think there's any flyers in play. Nope, there isn't, so that won't be as useful to them as it would be in other games. Although we do have Consecrated Sphinx in the deck, so that's something we need to think about. Each player loots, thanks to the Gaia Reach Sanitarium. Don't know if I would have tapped down more lands to get that effect off. A Sylvan Library. Quite like the idea of a Sylvan Library. Even if Braids goes for Cyclonic Rift, we can easily get that back out, so... yeah, let's just get rid of the command tower here. Oh, and I've just seen in the chat, actually, yeah, the Tezzeret couldn't be activated, thanks to the Immortal Sun. Yeah, apparently I forgot about that as well. So, that happened quite a while ago, but it won't be as long ago for you, because I'll have edited bits out by now. Yeah, the Tezzeret came down and couldn't be activated because of the Immortal Sun, keeping the loyalty abilities of Planeswalkers in check. Alright, Shizuko, freezing a bunch of their lands to get down a wild pair. Really good card. That's actually the sliver version, because this card is really good in slivers. Whenever a creature enters, if you cast it from your hand, you can search your library for a creature with the same total power and toughness, and put it onto the battlefield. I imagine they've got quite a few 2/2s in the deck, because that seems to be the most common of power combinations. So let's see what they can get off of a Nissa Vastwood Seer. Oh, and it takes the buff from the Immortal Sun into account as well. Nissa Vastwood Seer is a 2/2, but it was a 3/3 thanks to the +1/+1 buff. So they could search for a 3/3 in Skull Mulcher. And they did devour a couple of creatures there. Draw a card for each creature it devoured. Yeah, so that is now a 6/6, thanks to its 2 buffs. But it's a 3/3 without any buffs, so yeah, that's interesting. Didn't know that. Now let's go for another zombie. And another black source, I think. Then we can go for Worldly Tutor, and I'd probably quite like to get the Dragon Lord Dramoka into play, although the Braids player can respond to that, so Yeah, I'm not sure how this is going to pan out, but we can try at least. Let's draw into the Worldly Tutor and cast it. This will put a creature on top of our library. Everything seems to be getting through really quickly, so again, not sure about counter magic, but I'm going to play around it anyway. And we may be able to activate Golos again, actually, thanks to the doubling ability of the Vorinclex. Let's cast the Dragonlord Dromoka. That gets straight into play. It can't be countered, and your opponents can't cast spells during your turn, so now we have free reign to do whatever we want. Let's go for Eladamri's Call, and we can search for a creature, put it into our hand. Let's grab the Seedborn Muse, and then Demonic Tutor can go after... What do we want? We've got Scroll Rack. Scroll Rack's good, I think. Let's get down the Scroll Rack. And then make sure we've got enough mana of different types to activate the Golos. Yes, I think we do. So we'll activate Scroll Rack. And we'll put the Seedborn Muse and the Sylvan Library on top. Doesn't matter what order they go in. Then activate Golos, and we reveal the 2 cards that we already knew about, as well as a Sakura Tribelder. Only 4 basics in the deck, so that's not as effective as it would be in other decks, but hey, how likely is it that we're going to draw into our basics naturally, if there's only 4 of them? Unfortunately, can't get Smothering Tithe down. Let's see about putting a Lightning Greaves onto Dragonlord Dromoka. It does have lifelink. We'll have to empty that blue mana. And we will swing everything in at the Braids player again. And they have shown themselves to be the most powerful deck so far. They can't do anything during our turn thanks to the Dragonlord Dromoka, so whatever they were saving is going to be of no use to them. Now, what do we want to protect the most? I think we still want Vorinclex. Now, the Spider player is in top deck mode, so let's hope that they don't top deck into anything really good. And the great thing about having Seedborn Muse in this deck is that you untap all your permanents during each of the player's untap steps, so we can make use of Scroll Rack multiple times, and we can activate Golos a bunch more times as well, if we've got the mana for it, which we currently do. Now, Ishkanah's lands had been put to sleep, so there's not too much they can do, but they can get down this additional spider into play. There's unfortunately been a mixed match of power levels in this game. Yeah, let's just go for Golos again. Great thing about Golos is that you can do it at instant speed. We just get a bunch of lands off the top, so let's go for that again. And I'm just doing this now. This is a creature-based deck, so it's not that likely that we're going to be able to get into instant speed stuff to cast. So yeah, still learning this deck and tinkering away with it. I think it would be better if we get into flash enablers. We just cleared a bunch of lands off the top. But yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, being able to play at flash speed would be really helpful, because that would allow us to actually cast the things during our opponent's turn with Golos. So while I thought of the Seedborn Muse interaction, I did not think of actually being able to cast the stuff. We do have some instants in the deck, but it's not all that many. A Grim Monolith for the Shizuko player, and a Traveller's Amulet. Search for a basic, yep, don't care about that. Just deciding to crack that for the basic. Their commander's actually being very useful to everyone, because Vorinclex only cares about lands being tapped down, and if you don't have to tap your lands down for the mana, which you don't with the 3 mana from this thing, then that can be very helpful. A Primordial Sage for our opponent. Now then, let's see what they can get off of Wild Pear with that. If they can consistently get stuff with that, then yeah, I didn't think they'd be able to get something with that. It is an odd power and toughness pair in there, and it might be that they're thrown off by the Immortal Sun. That might be a bit of a nombo for them. But in this instance, I think we go for Anguished Unmaking on 2 Primordial Sage because it is more card draw for them, and they're getting enough of that as it is. Let's sack the Sakura Tribe Elder, and we'll get a Basic Forest out of the library. And then not bother going for Golos because of what we mentioned before. Yeah, feels pretty bad. We could be making a lot of use out of all of this Golos stuff, but we can't play stuff at instant speed, and this is creature based, so yeah, I didn't really think of that. With Sylvan Library, we can stack the top cards of our library and then cast them for free with Golos. In this case, let's keep a couple of lands. Why don't we go for the Riverwise Augur first and see what we draw into. This is a Brainstorm with legs. Alright, yeah, that's some really good stuff to draw into. Ephemerate can shuffle our library with Golos. Prismatic Vista can shuffle our library as well. So let's get rid of Smothering Tithe, I don't think we really need. And we'll go for the Snow-Covered Plains as well. Then we'll play Prismatic Vista. And get another zombie. Shuffle all that stuff away. And we'll just drop a Swamp down. That'll get us another zombie. Then we'll get down Azusa. And that's an additional land drop. How much do we need? We've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah, we don't need the breeding pool in Untapped. And we are running low on life. Now let's activate Golos a couple of times. Alright, there's an Enlightened Tutor. We can play the Plateau in Untapped because we do have additional land drops. And then let's play Enlightened Tutor as well. We can put something good on top for Golos. The fast tutors are really good in this deck. And instead of Zendikar Resurgence, I think I'd actually like Rhystic Study more because it's more card draw for us. I don't think our opponents have the mana to pay into it really. Go for the Golos activation again. And we get back into that Smothering Tithe, so let's cast that. Seems very eager to be played this game. And the Rhystic Study as well for hopefully more card draw. The lands can go away. And we have Ephemerate held up. So let's get into some combat damage, I think. Gonna swing all our zombies in and the Dragon Lord Dramoka at the Shizuko player. I think they're more threatening than the Spider player currently. And then we will leave it at that. Yeah, what happened there is that Ishkanah just decided to walk away from the computer apparently. They didn't concede, they didn't throw up the good game. Nothing like that. They just walked away because, well, for whatever reason. And then was just talking to the Shizuko player there, and they said that they're likely going to concede if the other player comes out of the game because they can't really come back from that. I did say that they should draw a couple of cards at least, which they will do at the beginning of the turn, and notice that they didn't. They had 5 cards in hand and should have been up to 7. Yeah, they should have drawn into their cards at least and seen what they could have gotten into. They do have Eldrazi in the deck. But it's likely that they weren't going to come back from that. We had a boatload of creatures on the board and had the game pretty much locked down thanks to our Vorinclex and Lightning Greaves. An oversight on my part is that this deck really needs a Leyline of Anticipation and a Vidalcan Orrery so that we can play things at instant speed, so I'm going to have to swap a few things around there. We do have some instants and sorceries in the deck that we can get off with Golos, but obviously it's only the instants that we would be able to cast during our opponent's turn, so if we want to go for that little Seaborn Muse Golos interaction, then we need to be playing at instant speed, which, like I say, is an oversight on my part. Huge apologies again for the ending, the way the game ended. Again, it's become a running joke on this channel, which I actually really despise. Not the fact that people are joking about it. It's, you know, it's fair enough joke to make. It is humorous in its own way, but yeah, the fact that games end this way isn't something that should ever really occur. People should either throw up a good game and then concede and say they can't come back from it, or they should just play it out if they fancy their odds at maybe clawing something back. And a lot of the times people should play on anyway, because they don't know what everyone else is going to top deck into. Someone might have gotten into a board wipe in that case, for instance, but maybe the Ishkanah doesn't run board wipes. It did seem like a fun, janky build. Anyway, apologies again for the state of the ending in that video. I've said to a few commenters now that one day I'll set up a Patreon and a Discord, and then we can start getting games together within our community on this channel, and then we shouldn't be getting early concessions and the like. But want to get more of a following on the channel first before I do that, so that's just something to aim for in the future. Hopefully you all enjoyed the Golos deck anyway. Let me know what you think. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.